right? And he takes very old Brother Abdul Hakim. Thank you, brothers. No maturity Abraham, your seed is going to be a stranger in the land that is not theirs. And they shall serve them, and they shall be afraid. God, you will live 400 years. But after that time, I will come. Tens of millions of us have been destroyed. Reparatory justice is the crime of all of the Caribbean. It's the crime of Africa. It's the crime of Asia. It's the crime of those who are the sons and daughters of those who paid with their lives and with their slave labor and their colonial labor. And all those capitals, all the stories in the streets, all the beautiful buildings that your arms and pastor and built, on the backs of those whom your ancestors enslaved and colonized. What do you know? Who was enemy? But the repair for us is already. We must not. We must set up an educational system that will free us from our former slave masters. You need to set up a law system of your own. You've done it for them. Now wake up and do it for yourself. Greetings, NEC. Greetings, family.
Greetings.
We would be remiss in our duty if we in fact the organizers and the very organized Brother Andrew and the students here as time is running, we're very blessed to have here with us from New York, but more than New York, a global representative of the Most High, whose body may have come to birth in New York, but he's so much bigger than New York. New York cannot contain a brother of this caliber and a brother of his magnitude. It gives me tremendous pleasure and it's indeed a great honor to introduce to some of you and present to others our wonderful brother, Ian Kiwish. Let's give him a big round of applause. I applaud you. You can solve all your problems. This is a poem, and Zinga is a poem, Farrakhan is a poem, and all of you are poems of only you would think. Intelligent. There is nothing you can't do. Our ancestors sent us to solve all of our problems. And all the sages are trying to tell us was to think unlimited. We have been stumbling against logic, trying to use logic, but logic does not exist. Trying to survive in a money world, which is an illusion. All the money you need is your consciousness. Wake up. That's what the sages are trying to tell you. You can solve all your problems from within because the creator is inside, waiting to come out, waiting for you to act. So as we do this interview, all I want you to do is to think intelligent. There is nothing you can't do. Think unlimited, think unlimited, think unlimited. What we can do as a people is unlimited if we think that way. Fantastic. So on behalf of spiritual injection, as we just alluded to, as a people, we're very rich. As a people, we have achieved the impossible. We have had some of the best speakers of any people, regardless to the state and the conditions that our teachers have found us. So because of past, present, we have had the best speakers. Why is not our condition tantamount to the great possibilities that we have, the possibility to achieve? Why are our actions not equal to the level of great teaching that we've received over time? I appreciate the question. And to answer that to the best of my ability, the ancestors have been given. And I want you to say, I want to say this, that if you are upside down, inside out, and backwards, even if I give you some good information, you can't do nothing with it. Do you hear what I say? So no matter how profound the speaker, if your paradigm is white magic, if your paradigm that Europeans are at the top of the totem pole, if you've taken on the illusion that you're inferior, if you take on the illusion that they're rich and you're poor, if that's in the back of your head, even if I give you some liberating information, you're upside down, you can't even use it. I show people a proper perspective of Africa, and it looks upside down to them, and they go, they reject. I don't care if they got this. Oh, brother, it can't be like that, because I went to Harvard, I went to Yale, I went to Oxford, I went to Cambridge. Brother, you just been bamboozled on a higher level. So we have to change the way we think. We have to change to symptomatic thinking. We got to be able to prove everything is coming to us. Show me the energy. Show me where I can define that, and I can find evidence to substantiate the truth. Not just a mythology. Okay, I needed some shit. So what happened, brother? We are totally upside down and inside out. It doesn't matter how powerful me and you are. You know what happened? So they got to change their power. So is that what's happening? Many of us expose ourselves to good teachers, to good orators, to loving members of our family who are willing to give their lives for our transformation. But we still seem to lack the impetus to look within ourselves. But we generally blame Caucasian people and others for all of our ills and all of our lack of progress. So would you say then that we are responsible now for what is happening? We are our problem right now. You see, we can solve all of our problems, but we got to do some serious thinking here. Watch this. We have to take control of our education system. We are the only people that allow our former enslavers to educate our babies. So you know that the doll test, they got kids 3 years old, and they say, which doll is the pretty doll? And they say the white doll. What doll is the evil doll? The black doll. They haven't even went to school yet. They've been programmed from television to your vision. You call it television. That's the monster in your house. Get rid of it. Now you got to take control of those babies' education at 3 and 4 years old. In fact, black people invented preschool. And the Europeans said, oh, wait a minute. We got to undo this positive work they were getting at home. So we're going to make preschool free and take it out of the home. We're going to get them at 3 and 4. They did that because we were making progress. So we got to take control of your children, people. That's number one. I mean, I got a whole list of things. But number two, we need to give them back their spiritual systems, give them back their foods, give them back their clothes, give them back everything. You got to take control of your life. Take control of your life. So that's I'm talking about fundamental, from the food.
Right. So therefore, we then, as adults, males and females, do we need to be taught what a relationship is and what the value is of bringing children here on the planet?
So we need to pay homage. We got people in the audience who are carrying this arm, wearing this arm. Some people got it tattooed all over their body. But we still don't understand that the fundamental thing that's being projected here is Black family. Hold the woman high. Respect her. Protect her. The male needs to be the person who leads and protecting the discriminant universal energy. And then the children, male and female, are in your care until they become an arm. That family structure, for the 400 years of slavery, didn't break down the family structure. Within the last 30, 40 years, homosexuality, promiscuity, this whole alphabet, you know what I'm trying to say here, has disseminated the Black family. So young boys don't see a Black father, don't have a Black father to talk to. Mama can't use that universal feminine because she has mother, daddy, provider, inspirer. She has to be all those things, okay? And now we've taken her to twerking. Right. So now, if she's on if she got a station, whether it's internet or whatever, she got to show the European sexuality. Right. She got to put a weave on. Right. Or even she got to afro. You got to stop the twerking on the internet. Right. Twerk your mind. Twerk your mind with some mathematics.
Okay. So tell me here, brother, how important is it for us to understand that even though as a people, our nature is righteousness, our nature is good, our nature is an extension of the Creator, how important then is it for us to control the environment in which we live?
Very important. So let me just say this here. What you just stated is defining the general nature of African people, but it's a double-edged sword.
Right.
You know, it can cut the opponent or it can cut you.
Yes, sir.
Our enemy has studied us and used our beautiful, loving nature as a weapon against us.
Right. Okay.
So when you're not in control of the education, now you can be duped, you can be bamboozled. So it becomes extremely important. Keep your double-edged sword sharp, but you have to know which side to use. Yes. You know, as a martial artist, I learned how to use both sides against my enemy. Yes. Okay. So we have to send our children through rites of passage programs. A woman should have in Tanzania, my father's homeland. A woman can't get married until she's been through a rites of passage and declared a woman. Right. The man can't get married until he has went through a rites of passage where he has learned how to be a man, how to take care of a family. And then he's given permission from the village to get married. Right. Today, all of that's gone. So we got to go back and reclaim this. What kind of rites of passage? We're getting, the gangs are sending you through a rites of passage. Right. Listen, our babies are in their schools. Our women are in their churches. And our men is in their prisons. So they got us covered. Right. We got to step outside of that paradigm.
Right. 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 So as we are coming of age, because it seems as if there is more consciousness in the Black community than there's ever been. And it's also in the world, the level of consciousness. So in knowing, for instance, we're here in London, and as Black people, we're approximately 5% of the population. Is this the right environment to institute the programs that you just mentioned to bring about a holistic family, to bring about a holistic community, to bring about a wholesome family? Is somewhere like the UK the environment to go after such high standards?
Again, I appreciate your question, brother. But let me make this statement. Every place you are on the planet can be the right environment if your consciousness is right.
Right.
So let me say this. Even if you're, I teach, for example, Kupagani and Gumi in African martial arts. When a student becomes a fundi, a black belt like a fundi, I say to them, I should be able to drop you off in the desert.
Yes.
And come back 5 years and you got a thriving little civilization going.
Right.
Because I've trained you with all the tools you need, how to survive, how to hunt, how to defend yourself, how to feed yourself, how to plant, how to be in harmony with the animals around you. And so if we're teaching that, it doesn't matter that you're 5%. You're 5%. Look at what we got right here. This is a beautiful, y'all give yourselves a hand here. Okay? We can take our, nobody's stopping us from coming here.
Right, right.
The people who got this flyer and decide to stay home, nobody stopped them. Nobody made them do that.
Right.
Once we change the way we think, symptomatic thought. Symptomatic thought means that I can prove it is tangible and I know what the results will be based upon scientific evidence.
Fantastic. So how important then is our unity to achieve that? Because if we know we're small in number, then can we afford to be divided? Is that something we can afford?
Yes and no. Okay. I'll say this here, is that when I was in the 9th grade, I was studying to be a lifeguard. And you want to save everybody.
Right.
See, and I can see where your question's going.
Right.
You don't want to lose nobody. You want to save everybody. But our lifeguard instructor told us, he says, there's some people you can't save.
Right.
Some people, if you jump in the water and they're having an attack, they will kill you.
Right. Or if you don't know how to approach.
Right. Sometimes you got to knock a person out to save them.
Right.
Sometimes you just put a stick out.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And hope they're grabbing.
Right.
So I'm saying, to answer your question, I'm saying there's always casualties of war.
Right. Right. So how important then is it, brother, for us, if we're maturing, to be able to look past labels and focus on content? What level of development does an individual need to
remember the Rites of Passage program I talked about? We need to, I make a statement when they talk about reparations.
Yeah.
I said reparations with your mind just the way it is now will actually benefit your oppressor.
Right.
There'll be more chicken bones and cat lights parked outside and Jordan sneakers, than ever before.
Right.
You need to go through a rites of passage, get your consciousness right, and now we give you the check.
Right.
Okay. So you see what I'm saying? So there needs to be a preparation, not just the check, because if you're upside down, inside out, and backwards, and I give you a check, your enemy will benefit from it.
Right.
So, but let me say this though, numbers is not as important as you think. In ancient Kemet, the most recorded greatest civilization on the planet Earth that we can prove, there was no popular vote.
Right.
There was no election. And yet we had 4,000 years of continuity. There's no nation that's been in power for more than 300 or 400 years.
Right.
So let me make this statement. I put up a formula, and it's on my website. I say you have a council of esteemed ancestors. That's ancestors who've proven the track record, who laid down the foundation for math, science, engineering, astronomy. Okay, so we already know we did that. So we give homage to those ancestors. Now you have esteemed elders, and the elders' job is to perpetuate the work of the ancestors. From the elders, now you have a council of experts. And the council of experts are in every field: mathematics, spirituality, education, farming, okay, seamstress, everything, right? and they report to the elders who are in contact with the ancestors. So you don't have renegade experts. Right now, we got in the UK and the United States and all around the world, we got renegade experts. Experts that are not connected to the ancestors. So they're not connected to a spiritual system. They're not connected to the elders. So they're just doing their own thing. That is suicide. In fact, those elders can work against you.
Right.
Okay. And then you have a council, and this is important, a council of esteemed scribes. And the scribes put you in contact of who the experts are, credible experts. Because the internet, anybody can open up an internet channel. You could be a fool, and you don't find out that it's the person you've been following is a fool, and for a year later, then that makes you a fool also. Okay, but you was trying to get it together. So we need the council of the media, like what you're covering here now. This media needs to get out to every household so that they understand that, okay, that person is an expert, but they're not connected to nobody. So I can't be following them.
Right.
And then the school hires these experts to come in to teach the babies.
Right.
So you see, you got this continuity.
Right.
We lack that.
Right.
So if you got that, numbers don't, listen, if I got a council of esteemed experts in economics, in business, and so, I don't care about the popular vote.
Right.
The population is crazy. Listen, y'all, I know this is gonna sound strange to you, but democracy is mob rule. Did y'all hear me? Mob rule. So if the mob is crazy, if the mob is out of their mind, if the mob is gangster, and they all vote yes, does that make it right?
Well, let's say this then, as you mentioned politics, right? As you know, being in England, we have a new prime minister, right? Who was not elected by the conservative membership or by the masses of the people. He was clearly selected by the MPs who make up the Conservative Party. Right. But he is nonetheless the first and only man of color to ever be in that position. What's your thoughts on the new prime minister being one of color?
Every brother ain't a brother. Do I need to say anything else? His actions will speak.
Right.
So, and let me say this. Coming from America, we just went through 8 years of a black president.
Right.
We got more homosexuality, backward laws passed,
Right.
and nothing passed for black people.
Right.
So because you have a black representative who's placed there, who's handpicked, it's like a plantation when the master picks an overseer.
Right.
The overseer don't become the beater of the slave because of his good record.
Right. Right.
He gets picked because of his obedience to the structure. So that's what you need to look at. Look at his record. You know, is his record pro-Pan-African or something of that nature? I don't think so.
His record is that he's a billionaire.
Right. His record is that he's in the pocket of the people who already
Right.
control.
Right. So therefore, because the United Kingdom now is being led by a child of one of the colonists, if you will, or yeah, those who were colonized, and his religion is not Christian, he's a Hindu. What would you say that is a sign of in regards to Britain being still great on the world stage?
Well, when I was coming here, I think in the airport, I saw a sign and it said Britain, a nation of diversity.
Right.
So they want you to think that because you got Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Buddhist, all working together under their control,
Right.
that everything is okie dokie and that you can trust them.
Right.
No, a snake is a snake is a snake. Even if he comes in a three-piece suit.
So what would you then advise our brothers and sisters in regards to those who are looking at this as a great achievement for people of color?
Keep both eyes open and check his record out and make him accountable for everything he does.
Very good.
You see, what happened is that we didn't make Obama accountable to black people.
Right.
The people who put him in there as a placeholder.
Right.
The LBJ community had a platform, and they made him accountable. The Jews had a platform, They made him accountable. We as an African people collectively here in the UK, you have to have a platform and make him accountable.
Right.
And then he'll show you who he is based upon his accountability.
Okay, very good. So as time is on us, in regards to the time in which we're living, we're obviously not living in a time like any other time. This is a time of world confusion and very imbalanced, volatile world in which we're now living, where we could end up going in any direction on a dime. What would you advise us as a people in the diaspora in regards to repatriation? As we're coming to the end of Black History Month here in the United Kingdom, what would you advise in regards to us looking at the lands of our fathers and our mothers?
Okay, I don't have to sell anybody to let them know that Africa is the richest continent on the planet Earth. I don't need to tell this crowd here that births of civilization started in Africa, that Africa gave the world mathematics, science, civilization, philosophy. Okay, so we don't have to debate that.
Right.
What we are debating right now is that should we be going home? I mean, that shouldn't even be a debate. That shouldn't be a
But
question.
Africa at the moment is not rich for
Right,
us, and it's not rich for Africans.
But Africans in the diaspora, you are the answer. Africans in the diaspora have to go back home. For example, Africans in America have the most dispensable income than any Africans on the continent.
Right.
But we don't want to go back home. At one time, we were escaping slavery, trying to get back home.
Right.
Now we can go home and don't want to go.
Right.
Because they painted a bad picture of Africa. Africa is a bad brand.
Right.
I remember Trump said that the African nations were shithole nations. You all remember that?
Yeah.
Haiti was a shithole, nation. We need more immigrants from like Scandinavia and stuff like that. Okay, so they really meant that.
Right.
We as Africans have to begin to make Africa a good brand again. America is just a brand. You get there and you realize it's not the land of milk and honey, it's a cesspool. You realize that this is an illusion, but everybody still want to go because they created a good brand. Now we have to make Africans in the diaspora here in the UK, whether we're in France, where we are, we got to make Africa a good brand. And yes, Africa has room for us to come back home. Africa has the wealth, but don't come back begging. You got to come back with resources. You got to come back with skills. You got to come back as a developer, not as an exploiter. We got a lot of Africans coming back and they Afropeans.
Right.
They just taking the place of the Europeans. No.
Right. So therefore, because so many of us have lived all the days of our lives in the West, it's not possible for us to not have taken on some of the former slave masters' ways. So what would you say in regards to prior to going back home, purging oneself of European norms and values?
Excellent. I really appreciate that question. Remember I talked about a rites of passage program?
Yes, sir.
So you need to have a rites of passage program to prepare yourself to go back to Africa. If for example, if you're going to Ghana, maybe you might want to take a class in some Ashanti tree,
Right.
or Ghana, or something, so that you can assimilate. You don't want to be like a sore thumb sticking out. You want to go back, showing the Africans. If you're going to East Africa, maybe you want to learn some Swahili, so you can go back and at least say, Ujambo, to the brother. And they feel like, okay, the brother's trying. He messed up that pronunciation, but, we can work with that, okay? So do some studying. Don't come back with a superior attitude. Like here in the UK and in America, it's the instant disposable. We want it like right now.
Right.
I remember having dinner in Ghana, and the restaurant said it might take up to 3 hours for your dinner to be prepared, right? So now I come from London. I ain't waiting no 3 hours. I'm out of here. We just sat there patiently, looked at the ocean. We did some other things. We talked. We had a nice family discussion, and then dinner was dynamic. So we have to learn to get off of our head. Remember, I said we were upside down, inside out, and backwards. You can't go back to Africa like that, or you'll be part of the problem.
Right.
You got to get right side up. Learn your culture is your medicine. I want to say that again. Your culture is your medicine. We talked about this earlier. We used to be the most long-lived of people. Now we got the shortest lifespan because we've adopted somebody else's culture. We got a deity that don't look like us. We go to school and they're teaching us about, not about us. We know, I bet you don't know more about Britain history than you knew African history. In Jamaica, you know more about Britain history than Jamaican history. In America,
Some Jamaicans.
okay. In America, we know more about American history than Africans struggled in America.
Right.
So we got to change that paradigm.
Right.
Now you're prepared to go back to Africa.
Right.
You go back to teach. You go back to assimilate. You go back to build. See, we got to go back to Africa with a different philosophy. We're not going back to escape the white man.
Right.
We're not going back to escape the Western world.
Right.
We're going back to build a new future.
Right. Right. So therefore, what type of transferable skills do you think we in the West possess that Africa is in very immediate need of?
Yes, the trade skills.
The trade.
When I was coming up, you used to take mechanical drawing, you had wood shop, you had metal shop, you had electrical engineering, you had auto mechanics, and you can get skills in those areas. Skills. They need to be able to build. They need to be engineering. You know, those are the type of skills we need. Everybody don't need to go to college. They just messing your head up there. Now, I'm not anti-college, okay? Both of my children went to college. And you know what I told them? You're not going to get an education in college. All you're going to get is a key that will open some doors that might be closed to you if you don't have this education. But your real education is reading these books your daddy got here.
Yeah.
It's sitting and listening to John Henry Clark, listening to Dr. Ben, listen to Phil Valentine, listen to all of these. That's where you're going to get real education. So we have to re-educate family time. In my house, from 7 to 8:30 was study time. That means mama, daddy, children, everybody cracked the book open.
Very good.
No TV. I grew up with no television in the house. My children, 40 years old, still don't have a TV.
Very good.
Okay, so we got to re-educate ourselves and take control. Nobody's stopping us from taking control of ourselves.
Right. So therefore then, with your traveling here, your journey into the United Kingdom and engaging brothers and sisters who were born and raised in this country, what are the global unifying principles that you have gleaned since you have been here? What has surprised you most pleasantly?
Pleasantly, there's a conscious community every place I go.
Right.
So there's an illusion that we don't got it together. There's an illusion that we are backwards and confused. But every place I go, I see a group of conscious people in all religions. I see a group of conscious Christians, a group of conscious Muslims, a group of conscious so-called atheists, a group of people who just want a better life and they realize what they got is bad. So we come together, not based on religion, we come together based upon the spiritual need to take control of our lives, right? We come together to build together. In Tanzania, in ancient time, not today, but in Tanzania, when a family came together and your child was going to get married, the whole village built their house that day. So when they went to bed that night, they were sleeping in their home.
Wow.
That type of, and everybody couldn't wait to help because they knew when their child grew up, the same thing was going to happen. What goes around comes around.
Yeah.
See, that's unity. It had nothing to do with how rich individuals were. Collectively, now we might have a few millionaires in here, but most of us don't got no money. Very little money, but never claim to be broke. Positive affirmation. Just say your money is coming.
Right.
Okay? You got to always speak what you want.
What's happening with your money, brothers and sisters?
It's coming.
Where's your money? Oh, I can't hear some of you. Where's your money?
Right. And remember, your bank account is your consciousness. Your bank account is your consciousness. And so we got to come together, spend our money together. We can solve all of our problems, brother.
Right.
Look at the talent we just got in this room. We're running around to all these vendors.
Yes.
We can solve all of our problems, but we got to think we can. The illusion is that we can't. The illusion is that we depend upon these capitalist predecessors, these capitalist colonizers. And they don't care about your future. They're trying to survive. They're at war. All these European nations are at war. We talked about this.
Right.
Europe is getting ready to be a cesspool.
Right.
The only safe place for you to be is to go home.
Right. So let's talk about that, because we have a massive war taking place in Ukraine, and anything could trigger that war to spread like wildfire throughout Europe, and it could also draw America into this war pretty much overnight. So how much time do you think we have as Black people living in Europe and living in the West to actually get it together to make solid, concrete steps back to our father's lands?
Well, let me just say this here. Time is an illusion. The spirit of the people is greater than any technology that can be developed by the Western world. So I want to say that. So if we believe we can change time, okay, but we got to concretely believe.
Yeah.
A group of priests stood around some water that was polluted. That's like the Western world,
Yeah.
polluted.
Yes.
And all the priests grabbed their hands and they all began to pray to a spiritual nature, divinity. And they measured the water before and afterwards, and the water was cleansed from the spirit being drawn out, the dirt out of the water, the pollution drawn out. And so it's the spirit of the people is greater than any technology. We got to believe that with all of our heart. And see, our people don't believe that. They believe that the Westerners control technology. No, in America, still 40 to 50% of all inventions are still done by African people. But we don't benefit from it.
Right.
You got to learn manufacturing. You got to learn distribution. There are some Jews that say, I don't care who invented it. We're going to be the ones transporting it. So
Right.
we're going to make the money.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Distribution. If you got a movie, if it's not distributed, your movie ain't going nowhere.
Right.
So we got to take control. We need to do an inventory. This is what I tell my students. Take an inventory of everything you need to survive. Whether that's transportation, food, because they can use food as a weapon.
Right.
Food is a weapon. Food is more powerful than an atomic bomb. And we don't, for example, we're looking at Nigeria. They depend on foreign nations to feed them. They import almost all of their food. When they can grow, Ghana stopped producing rice. They used to be one of the leading rice producers. Now they're getting rice from China.
Right.
See, we got to change the way we think, brother.
Right.
And we can stop. So back to your time question. Time, like I said, is an illusion. Once we start to get it together, they're going to intensify on us. You know that.
Right.
So unity is operational, unbearable, and undeniable at the core. We got to come together. We can't be divided among Christians, Muslims, Hindu, Buddhists. We can't be divided like that. We have to be divided that we have a common enemy and a common oppressor, and that we are at war. So let me say this. If you're at war and you don't know you're at war, what's the chances of you winning? Zero, not even 1%. So we have to let every African person know we're at war. You're at war for your family. You're at war for your culture. You're at war even for your own history. They've stolen your history and falsifying it. So we're at war, brother, at every level. So we need inventory. You do inventory, I do inventory. We sit down and we compare notes. And then we come up with a solution. My father said, I don't care who caused the problem. If you're involved in the problem, you need to be part of the solution.
So you mentioned the importance of food and food being more powerful than an atomic bomb. So how important is it for us as a people to start thinking in terms of owning land? And where is the best place for us to start purchasing large tracts?
Malcolm told us that land is the only thing ain't nobody making no more of.
Right.
Okay, that's almost a direct quote from El Hasbi Shabazz. Okay, so listen, for example, as much money as Africans have in America, we only represent 3% of the nation's wealth.
Right.
Because we don't own land.
Right. So why have we not got it up to this point? We eat every day, right? We eat every day, and obviously,
Because
you
we
know,
think master's food is better than ours.
right,
That's why. Because we've been programmed that their food, just think of how much money we spend on instant, just, fast foods. The poorest people spend the most money for food. My parents didn't even know there was a depression in America because they had their own farm. They grew their own food. They made their own clothes. There was segregation, so they couldn't even be around the Europeans. So they didn't even know it was a depression. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we need to go back to that. There's a sister over here with the seed colony, teaching you how to plant seeds. You can do all your herbs on your windowsill. You don't even have to have land. We need to support Black farmers. Buy Africa. Me and Brother Yawna, we got a 100-acre farm in Ghana. So that was the first thing we said we need to do. Before we start putting buildings up, we need to be able to feed the people. Remember, food is a weapon. So if you can't feed yourself, you're at somebody else's mercy. So it's not about producing guns. Can you feed yourself? Can you clothe yourself? And then we get scared when I say this. Can we defend ourselves?
right. So what you're saying is because food is a weapon, if we have a loss of food, we have a loss of weapons. And if others are dependent upon what we produce, then obviously the tables would have turned, right?
I want people in the audience to take an inventory. I want you to look down at what you got on and see how much money you gave to your enemy. Go ahead, everybody, look at yourself. Where did those clothes come from? Did you sew them? Did you go to an African person? Who went to an African person? Do an inventory, and you'll see what I'm talking about. We need to take an inventory, and you need to be able to stand up and say, even my underwear is African. Everything I got on comes from African people. I didn't give them none of my money. They didn't get none of my money. You gotta be able to, you gotta say that every day.
Because Caucasian people are our children, technically they're baby Africans, right? So because everybody on the planet derived from us as original people. So we just got to now learn how to cause our children to obey their parents once again, right? And bring some order back to the home, which is our planet. But in terms of us returning to Africa, the Caribbean, to Asia, and this war brewing in Ukraine that could engulf Europe, do you think it's time now, in the immediate term, for those of us who do not have dual citizenship in another country, we only have an American passport or a British passport, a French passport, a Dutch passport, how important is it for us to have dual citizenship with a country in Africa or the Caribbean or in Asia in this critical time?
During this critical time, I think it's paramount. You need to be thinking, see, we're playing checkers and everybody else is playing chess.
Right.
So they've already got 3 or 4 moves ahead of you, and you're looking for your next checker move. Okay, we gotta start playing space 3-dimensional chess.
Right.
So yes, you need to be getting, like, I'm Ghana citizenship, Tanzania citizenship. I got choices.
Right. These are practical steps.
That's
right?
a practical step. First, get a passport.
Right.
First, have a passport. Then operate on travel to another country and find out what you need. For example, I think Ghana has given more citizenship to people in the diaspora than any African country.
Right.
So you can have less red tape, and you need to just do your homework. If you got relatives there, that's the inroad,
right.
For you getting citizenship.
Right.
But we need to put that as a priority. So even if you're not moving today or tomorrow,
right.
have an option.
Right. And also consider studying the laws of the various countries in Africa and the Caribbean.
That's what I was alluding to before when I said learn the language. Because language is the culture.
Right. Right. But the laws that govern land, because one of the things I found in Ghana was Ghana doesn't do freehold land. Ghana will give you a lease you know, for a set period of time for 99 years. So, but there are other countries in Africa that would give you freehold land. Gambia, and also many countries in the Caribbean. So those of you who want land that you can bequeath to your children for countless generations, it might be wise for you to do some research. So just as we close, my brother, because the bell has rung, please share some closing remarks with our beautiful audience.
In closing, I just want to say, Sankofa. Sankofa means go back and fetch what you lost of value and bring it forward to the future. And so if we can close, if everybody can just put their hands up, and we're going to say Sankofa 3 times as loud as you can. Pull it down. Everybody. Sankofa. Sankofa.
Sankofa.
Sankofa. Thank you very much.
Thank you, family. Please give a well-deserved standing ovation for our special guest who has traveled all the way from the United States. I think both of these brothers deserve more than a round of applause. Look at this love. This is Black love, is Black unity, and it's Black power. Let's give them a round of Sankofas, like 1, like 3. Sankofa, Sankofa, Sankofa. Thank you, brothers. Now, I'm just informing our brother Mfudishi at this moment, there's not enough time for him to give you the presentation that he was supposed to give in his PowerPoint. So I'm gonna make a proposal. Tomorrow we have a free event at the Legacy Center for Excellence right here in Birmingham. Will you give that presentation?
I'll give that presentation, and I'm gonna give you a special, some African folklore from ancient Kemet to today. That's what you can share with your children and adults. Story time plus history time plus intellect time plus crystal time.
Okay, so the Christology workshop will be tomorrow. African folklore will be tomorrow. And most importantly, dynamic, what was the presentation on? So the PowerPoint presentation.
Oh, just the power of unity.
Power of unity. So please, that's the Legacy Center. Time is 4 p.m. At 4 p.m. until about 7 p.m. Please be there. We're on the Black History website. We'll put the flyer, and we'll also put it on Instagram. Thank you, family. Is Respect around? Is Respect here? I wanted us to end this on a high note. I wanted Respect to do one last song, but right now I just want to make a quick announcement. Anybody that has a coat in the front wall is closing promptly at 8 o'clock.